We got a nice slate split today between the day games and the night games, and we're going to get you ready right here on First Pitch at WagerTalk TV. I'm Dan Alexander, and joining me for a little early Thursday edition, I got Bryan Power, Jimmy Adams, and Eric Pauly. If you like the content across the channel, make sure you hit that like button and throw us a subscribe as well, folks. We're up early in the morning, putting in the man hours to get you baseball winners. Least you could do is throw a like for these guys. Bryan, let's start off with you. I've been seeing you here, there, and everywhere across the content, of course, on the Power 5 Daily as well. Let's talk a little Rays and Orioles. How are you going to be betting this set?
Yeah, Dan, obviously a huge series here may end up deciding the AL East. Orioles currently a
Yeah.
two-game lead. They come in knowing they need just a win, just one in this series to clinch the season series, which would give them the tiebreaker over the Rays. But what I want to look at here and hone in on is the fact Baltimore's off back-to-back losses to St. Louis, no less. There have only been two times all season where the Orioles have lost three or more consecutive games. They lost four in a row at the end of June, start of July, and then we had a three-game losing streak back in early May. That is it. Of course, you go back even further with this team. They have not been swept in a series since May of 2022. They are not only the most profitable team in baseball this season, they were the most profitable team in baseball last year. Up 67 units since the start of 2022. No team even close. And for the record, when the O's are off back-to-back losses, 15-3 this season. Now, I expect them to get more timely hitting tonight. In the two losses to St. Louis, they were 1 for 18 with runners in scoring position. We all know that hitting with runners in scoring position can kind of turn on a dime sometimes, especially when you're a good team like Baltimore. On the mound, they've got Kyle Bradish. What's their record when he's on the mound? How about 7-0? His last 7 starts, he's got a 2.38 ERA, easy for me to say, and a .96 WHIP during that time. And we know Tampa's not as good on the road as they are at home. Savale has been pretty good since coming over from Cleveland. He's starting for them, but he did allow 4 runs in 5 innings his last time out. He's got a 7.36 ERA, 2 previous starts versus Baltimore. Dan, I just have faith in Baltimore here that they're not going to lose 3 in a row. It just does not happen very often like I laid out. I would lean the way of the home team in this AL East showdown on Thursday.
And Bryan Power coming on, breaking down and looking towards the O's. Some things it's like death, taxes, and Bryan finding a way to talk Orioles here. Most profitable team across sports. I don't blame you there, and I'm definitely not going to pull a Teddy Covers and try and talk you into the other side. O's against the Rays is the lean on the big game breakdown. I'm fired up this morning, boys. All right, let's talk to my man Eric Pauly. You're going to find us later today on Gold Sheet TV, giving out some NFL plays. We also broke down Thursday Night Football. You can check that out, goldsheettv.com. He's also got a great deal with our Gold Sheet. You can get it for free. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But you want to talk a little Mets and D-backs. You want to talk some pitcher props, specifically about the guy who used to be the star of the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks. You didn't think I would be dropping that one here. Kodai Senga. Let's talk, Eric. What do you got?
Yeah, so when it comes to pitcher props, obviously you have to consider if the pitcher is a strikeout pitcher or not, what kind of pitches they throw, how the other team hits against those pitches. You also have to consider the form the opposing lineup is in. Now, Arizona on the season, they're one of the lower K rate teams against lefties and righties. Mm-hmm. But over the last month or so, and then when you date that back just to the beginning of September, Arizona is actually sitting in the middle of the pack in terms of K rate against right-handed pitching in the MLB. And you would look at that and say, all right, this team doesn't strike out all that much, which is true. But in comparison to what they normally do, they're actually in a very high peak of their strikeout numbers. Now, going at Kodai Senga, I mean, when he faced Arizona back in the beginning of June in Arizona, he struck out 12 of these Diamondbacks. And his signature strikeout pitch is his forkball, his ghost fork, that no other pitcher in the MLB throws anything like. So if you have never seen it, which I know they have now once, but even if you've only seen it against one pitcher, you're never getting a steady dose of like anything, sliders, curveballs, sweepers, whatever it may be. He's the only guy throwing this forkball. Now, after putting up 12 Ks against them in Arizona back then, he's coming off, I don't want to say a down start against the Twins because the Twins did a good job getting to him, still pitched decently. But at home, Senga's just an absolute animal. His FIP is just a 3.12. His walk rate is still high, but it drops considerably when it's on the road. but his strikeout rate shoots up and is as high as a 31.5% K rate at home this season. And something that's important is a lot of these strikeout props are lineup dependent. If the team decides to put out a punt lineup or decides to stack lefties or righties against the pitcher, that's going to alter that number immediately when the lineups are announced. But with Senga, I'm confident to lock this in now because he has a 30% K rate against both sides of the plate. I think his left is just 29.5 instead of 30 against the right. So he's not as lineup dependent as some other starting pitchers are. And just considering the matchup, what he's done against him in the past, and how he is a pure strikeout pitcher, asking just for 7 does not seem like too tall of a task for Senga. So I like his over today against the Diamondbacks at home.
Looking towards the over 6.5 strikeouts. You got any props that you like? Hop below in the comments and let us know. We love hearing from you down there. And while you're down there, hit that like button. And if you haven't yet, hit that little bell. If you haven't, I don't know what you're doing, especially as we go through football season. You want to be subscribed here to WagerTalk TV. Jimmy Adams. So we talked a little pitcher in that matchup, but you want to talk side total. What are you thinking for this D-backs and Mets matchup?
Yeah, staying in Queens for the big game breakdown. And look, there is no room for error for this D-backs club in what is a jam-packed NL wildcard race. Just so many teams vying for those final spots that Arizona just has to take advantage of these teams against inferior opponents. And so Merrill Kelly's going to get the start for Arizona. He's been great all year long, and he enters in solid form as well. Just 1 run allowed in each of his past 2 starts. Now, he does need to get the command under control. He walked 5 his last time out. I think he gets that rectified here. Kelly isn't a high velocity guy, but he does a great job with his 4-seam changeup mix, and that's one of the reasons his pitching run value ranks in the 91st percentile. I mean, his off-speed stuff is literally as good as it gets. When you look at his analytics, he's up there with the best in baseball as far as changing speeds. Now, Kodai Senga has pitched well also, and that's what's probably going to keep me off this game ultimately. He's also had success against the D-backs already this season. He's just – but when you get Kelly at an underdog price, look, the Mets have just been money burners all season long. If you wager just $100 on the Mets in every game, you're down over $2,600. The D-backs, steady money earners. I give them an offensive edge, even though there may have been a recent decline lately. I still think they're the better offensive team. And when you can get Kelly at an underdog price, I just have to lean with the D-backs. You can add the spot in there as well. Give me the Diamondbacks for the big game breakdown.
Just missing the card and staying off it as far as a client play, but looking towards the D-backs for the big game breakdown. What big game are you eyeing today? Let us know in the comments below. All right, Brian, let's talk a little best bet action here. Blue Jays and Rangers. And man, did the Rangers pull the old win one for the Gipper yesterday. They find out Max Scherzer's done, and all they do is just thump the Blue Jays 10 nada. Do we got a bounce back here coming for Prez's Toronto Blue Jays, or are we just completing this sweep here today? What do you think? How are you going to be betting it?
Well, look, we all know what an important series this was for the AL wildcard race, and so far, Toronto just a complete no-show. Not just last night. They've dropped the first 3 games. It was 10-0 on Wednesday night. As you said, Dan, kudos to the Rangers for overcoming the Max Scherzer news. You know, you looked at Twitter when that was announced. Everyone's like, Rangers dead, not going to make the playoffs. Well, they had other ideas. They now lead the Jays by 1.5 games in the 3-horse race. Also involves Seattle for those last 2 wild card spots. It was the 25th time this year Texas has scored 10 or more runs, and they've got the second best year-to-date run differential in the AL. But my big game breakdown, I honed in on the fact Baltimore was coming off back-to-back losses, which is rare, and it's a spot they usually do well. Here I want to focus how Toronto is facing the prospect of being swept in a 4-game series at home. And through the years, this has been traditionally one of my favorite buy low spots, guys. Over the last 3 weeks alone, there have been 4 different teams in the spot Toronto finds itself in tonight, where they could be swept in a 4-game series at home. All have avoided the sweep. I like that they're throwing Gausman on the mound here. Team's 3-0 his last 3 starts. Last time out, again, he goes 8 innings, allows just 1 run on 2 hits, 10 strikeouts over the last 2 seasons. No pitcher in baseball has a better FIP than Gausman. And though they've done it twice in this series, scoring 10 runs, most of those games where the Rangers put up double digits on the scoreboard were early in the season. They're 4-8 as a road dog of plus 125 to plus 175 this year. Eovaldi starting for them tonight, 1.656 whip his last 3 starts, 5.23 lifetime ERA against Toronto. Off a shutout loss, Toronto 6-2 this season, guys. It's juicy. Could you do something where you get creative and lay the half run in the first 5? Maybe. But I don't want to leave the Rangers bullpen, which is their albatross, out of this equation.
True.
I will lay the price here with Toronto at home with Gausman on the mound. They avoid the 4-game sweep on Thursday. Toronto is my best bet.
That's a man who is on an 8-1 all sports run. You can check him out at WagerTalk alongside Jimmy Adams and Eric Pauly of the Gold Sheet. All of them housed right there at WagerTalk.com. So we're looking towards the Blue Jays there. All right, Eric, what are you thinking? Because whenever the Yankees and the Red Sox face off, it's the situation for me as a Philly guy that I just want both teams to lose. Like, it's in my blood. New York versus Boston. Can we get a loss for both these teams? Unfortunately, that can't happen. So I'm wondering, you got something that I can bet in this game that doesn't necessarily involve either side winning?
Yeah, sticking with these strikeout looks that have done us really well for the Gold Sheet team. So when you look at starting pitchers, you often hear about starting pitchers turning into relievers for a variety of reasons, mostly because they're not good enough to be starters. So they take the trek to the bullpen and they become a bullpen guy. With the Yankees, you have Michael King, who's actually the opposite. He was a bullpen pitcher. They loved his stuff, and they said, "We need more of your stuff. Let's see if we can stretch you and turn you into a starter." And they've kind of started that transformation process. And over his last 4 games, he's been throwing 50, 60, 60, 70 plus pitches, and they're trying to turn him into a starting pitcher. It's easy to see why. This kid is a very, very good pitcher. I mean, he's not even a kid, he's 29, but when you're looking at his current form in his strikeout numbers, he's in the 81st percentile for whip rate and the 86th percentile for K rate. So he is striking out batters is what he does. And his numbers only at 4.5. And like I mentioned in the Senga preview, focusing in on a team's current form is something that I'd like to do when it comes to strikeouts. And when it comes to Boston, season long, they're one of the lower strikeout teams against right-handed pitching. But in the month of September, they actually have the 3rd highest strikeout rate against lefties. And you go back to the beginning of August, they're lower. They're about 19th. But again, compared to where they are for the season standings, which is around 25th, 26th, they're actually in a high strikeout form as we speak. The only thing that gives me a little bit of pause, but actually why I believe that this number is at 4.5, is because King, his K rate goes down a little bit against left-handed batters. It's just a 26% K rate, which is looking to scoff at, well above the league average. But Boston is able to put together a lefty-heavy lineup, which could be something to consider when playing King. But I think that's the reason why this number is 4.5 and not 5.5. But I still think, given his stuff and some of the righties that Boston does put out, if they are putting out, Trevor Story, Adam Duvall, Justin Turner, those are guys who do have relatively high K rates. So Michael King, 4.5 strikeouts. Don't have to worry about either of these teams winning. Just hoping that within this probably 70 pitch mark, that King can ring up 5 Red Sox. And that seems like a tall task. And while I'm not going to deny that it isn't, he has that kind of stuff. And that's why if you watch this game, you'll see why they want this guy to be a staple in their starting rotation over the next, obviously Yankees have to play for, but moving on in their future, and hopefully next year when they maybe do have something to play for.
I love it. I ask for a play that I don't have to bet either side, and my man delivers. The Gold Sheet is delivering as well this week. You can get NFL Week 2 and NCAA Football Week 3. The Gold Sheet this week, they're dropping it completely for free. For more details, check that out at goldsheet.com. A terrific promotion. If you haven't checked out the Gold Sheet, you need to. And what's a better way to do it then do it for free, just like the free winners we're giving out right now in Best Bets. Jimmy Adams has one more for you, and we're taking a look at the Giants and the Rockies, the customary high total there in Colorado. But the Rockies are off a series win. Unfortunately for them, it's not a series win in the NL West, whereas I was getting ready for the show, Jimmy, I didn't realize that they're 0-12-1 in series against their division rivals. They got the Giants coming to town. You think they get a win here and potentially go towards getting a series win against a rival, or are we just looking the other way and grinning and bearing it?
Yeah, not with Chase Anderson on the hill, Dan, unfortunately. So, yeah, we're headed to Coors Field for today's best bet. And look, if there was a pitcher designed to have success in this ballpark, it's Logan Webb. That's because Webb has a fantastic ground ball rate, keeping the ball on the ground over 61% of the time. He doesn't walk anyone either, so he's not putting potential runs on base for free, keeping the ball on the ground. He already has a WAR of 4.1, and he also does a great job of getting batters to chase outside the zone. On top of all that, the Giants playing some pretty good baseball right now. Winners of 5 of their past six. Another team right in the middle of that jam-packed NL wildcard race. This is actually a pitching rematch of a game the Giants won 9-1 less than a week ago. Webb didn't allow a run in that outing on just 3 hits and 6 innings of work. Chase Anderson, the poor guy, I can't even run down his analytics for you because they're so bad. So in pitcher-friendly Oracle, Chase Anderson gave up 6 earned. He didn't even make it out of the 4th inning. It's just so bad. We're going to see a repeat performance of it tonight. The Giants win big. Logan Webb does his thing, and Chase Anderson gets rocked. Give me the Giants on the run line.
Yeah, hard to disagree with that one, and especially with that 10.5 total. Probably some runs expected there. Giants run line over the Rockies. King with over 4.5 strikeouts, and the Blue Jays on the money line. That's your best bets here today. Let us know what your best bet is in the comments below, and make sure you give these guys a like and hit subscribe. You never want to miss any of our programming. First pitch rolling on through as the playoffs are approaching. But this is going to do it for another edition here of First Pitch. Big thanks to Bryan Power, Jimmy Adams, and Eric Pauly. We will be back tomorrow with a whole new crew live here on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. So hit that little bell, and we'll see you tomorrow. Best of luck, and we'll see you back here on WagerTalk TV.